Hey, it's Jordan with TYT Network. It is Tuesday, August 30th, another beautiful day here in New York. It is not confirmed, but I believe I will be going out on the road later this week to cover Jill Stein. She will be in the Midwest doing some rallies and events. So once I have more info on that, I will let you know. I'm looking forward to covering her, as obviously nobody else is. So I wanted to talk today because I read a great story in the New York Observer. You should definitely check it out, about maybe the reason why a lot of media organizations are kind of hands off with the Clinton Foundation. And take a guess. It's the money, Lebowski. So basically this story goes through the very, very kid gloves headlines that have come out about the Clinton Foundation, as more and more emails have come out showing basically Hillary Clinton's State Department was a playground for Clinton Foundation donors. So I'm going to read a little bit from this Observer article and also give you my take. So despite these ongoing scandals, Clinton's close yet questionable ties to media outlets such as Google, CNN, PBS, and the New York Times have seemed to pay off. These entities have gone out of their way to censor negative stories about Clinton, particularly ones involving the Clinton Foundation. There's one common thread through these media outlets suppressing harmful Clinton stories all share. They've donated to the Clinton Foundation. This bombshell, compounded with Clinton's use of a private server as Secretary of State, is fueling allegations that she was involved in a pay-to-play operation. But the story has been suppressed by Google in its searches, just as it has done in the past with stories that paint Clinton in a negative light. When searches related to this story, the story they're talking about is the Associated Press last week came out with a story where they went through about 150 or so meetings Hillary Clinton had as Secretary of State, and of about 150, maybe a little more, of that, 84 of them were with Clinton Foundation donors or major donors. And the Associated Press was pretty much bludgeoned to death by other media outlets saying they were selective in the meetings they took, it wasn't thorough enough, she had thousands of more meetings than what the AP chose. So when searches related to this story were entered into the Google web browser last week, results for, quote, Clinton AP story were limited to stories from left-wing publications discrediting the story, including this report from Vox. Their headline: the AP's big expose on Hillary meeting with Clinton Foundation donors is a mess. So basically, Vox, who prides itself on being informative and intellectual and wonky and highbrow and all these things, some of their work is good. One of their writers in particular, Matt Iglesias, has been on a crusade to defend Hillary Clinton. It seems like he's either breastfeeding from her or doing something strange, because every article is in adoration and vehement defense of Hillary Clinton. And I read most of his article. It's a lot of the same. AP wasn't thorough enough. They cherry-picked meetings to fit their narrative, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. I mean, the Associated Press, I could rail on a lot of media outlets, and I do, but they're kind of known as one of the signature news outlets in the world that generally isn't that biased. It's generally, here's the news. So I don't really buy into they cherry-picked. I think at the end of the day, if you take a large sample size of meetings, you can't go through every single meeting she had. She was Secretary of State for 4 years. So if you go through, over 150, and you see a pattern that 84, I'm not good at math, but that's over half, 84 of them were with donors, that would show a pattern of you fund my wallet, you get access to me, maybe even actions taken. So that was Vox's headline. CNN's headline, AP's big story, they put big story in quotations, on Clinton Foundation is a big failure. Huffington Post, the AP and why the press has trouble admitting it's Clinton's mistakes. Going further in this Observer article, the New York Times has taken its censorship a step further. The day after the AP broke the story, there were no mention of it in their entire paper. This kind of coincides with tweets I've sent out, because I looked at the New York Times on Sunday morning, not the print edition, but the website, literally not a mention of the Clinton Foundation, while there were new emails that came up the day before showing Hillary Clinton Foundation donors got favorable seating at private galas and state dinners and special seating next to Vice President Biden. Not important enough to the New York Times. New York Times has taken its censorship a step further. The day after the AP story broke, there was no mention of it in the entire paper, and this has remained the case until late Monday afternoon, a week later, after Maggie Haberman finally mentioned that, quote, Clinton and her campaign have denounced an Associated Press report. So let's not dig into the actual emails, the details, whether there is pay for play, or at the very least, serious access and back scratching going on. We'll just report that the Clinton campaign, who pay the bills for the New York Times, they denied. Then on CNN, Sunday morning, they have a show called Reliable Sources. It's a bunch of media kind of patting themselves on the back. It's a bit of a circle jerk. On Sunday, CNN's Reliable Sources host Brian Stelter defended Clinton and attacked AP's executive editor, Kathleen Carroll. Instead of questioning Clinton's dubious conduct as Secretary of State, Stelter questioned why the AP published the story in the first place and labeled it as misleading. I read the AP story. They didn't say, these are all the meetings Hillary Clinton has had as Secretary of State. That would be kind of hard to believe since they only did about 150. It's pretty evident to the reader this is a small sampling of her schedule as Secretary of State. I don't really get what's misleading about that. You cannot argue with data. They scrupulously went through these meetings. So if they went through, let's say, instead of 150, 500, would you get the same headlines? Because I'm telling you, if you go through 150 and 84 are with donors, if you go through 500, what do you think? 200 are with donors? I mean, 84 out of 154 or whatever it was, that's a pretty good trend line that you're going to see even if you expand out. So saying the AP of all people are misleading is a little dubious to me. Then moving on from CNN, a report came out Friday revealing that PBS's NewsHour removed negative comments about Clinton in Judy Woodruff's interview with Green Party presidential nominee Jill Stein. A Stein supporter discovered the edits after he compared the Facebook Live version with the broadcast and YouTube versions. The edits PBS removed from the interview included Stein's criticism of Clinton's support for the Trans-Pacific Partnership and Obamacare.
So are you saying you think literally that Hillary Clinton is every bit as bad for the country as Donald Trump?
I wouldn't say there are no differences, but the differences are not enough to save your job, because Hillary Clinton, and now her transition director, Ken Salazar, they're big proponents of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is basically NAFTA on steroids. And most observers believe that it will send our jobs overseas, as well as undermine American sovereignty by bringing in these international tribunals that get to pass judgment on our laws, on our public health protections, on our worker protections. So we can't count on saving our jobs, saving our lives. 1 in 3 Americans now cannot afford health care under Obamacare, or saving the planet, because Hillary has been a big proponent of fracking, as is Ken Salazar, her transition director. So we feel that in this election, we're not just deciding what kind of a world we're going to have, but whether we're going to have a world or not going forward.
NewsHour has done one report about the Clinton Foundation scandal in a softball piece titled A Glimpse Inside Operations at the Clinton Foundation. In the segment, Woodruff's co-host, Harry Srinivasan, conducted interviews with James Grimaldi of the Wall Street Journal, Columbia University's Doug White, and Clinton Foundation President Donna Shalala. A Media Research Center study found that the Clinton Foundation charity fraud story has only received a total of 4 minutes and 24 seconds devoted to it from the 3 big networks this year. For comparison's sake, the incident in which Donald Trump allegedly pretended to be his own publicist, which he was, in 1991, garnered 8 times more coverage. So you're seeing a trend here. Media outlets essentially kid gloves on the Clinton Foundation, whereas Donald Trump, a tweet, a booger, 24/7. We got to do everything we can to cover this on TV, online. And again, I'm not defending Donald Trump. I don't think he should be president, but I follow corruption both politically and in the media, and the fact that they are basically, I'd say, glossing over, if not completely censoring, important stories and important journalism that needs to be done about the Clinton Foundation shows you the state of our media today. So, to understand why the New York Times, Google, CNN, and PBS would censor negative information about Clinton, particularly stories revolving around the Clinton Foundation scandal, All you have to do is follow the money. All of these companies have donated, in some cases up to 7 figures, to the Clinton Foundation. Carlos Slim, chairman and CEO of Telmex, the largest New York Times shareholder, donated between $1 million and $5 million. Google donated between $500,000 and $1 million. So let me take you through some other media outlets that have donated to the Clinton Foundation over the year, and you'll see a pattern here. Woo. So $1 million to $5 million. Carlos Slim, chairman and CEO of Telmex, largest New York Times shareholder. James Murdoch, chief operating officer of 21st Century Fox, and of course News Corp. Thomson Reuters, owners of the Reuters news service. Then you move down to $500,000 to $1 million. Google, News Corporation Foundation, parent company of Fox News. $250,000 to $500,000. Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, never heard of them. $100,000 to $250,000. Bloomberg Philanthropies, tied to Bloomberg News. Howard Stringer, former CBS News and Sony executive. Then you move down to $50,000 to $100,000. Bloomberg LP, Discover Communications Inc. George Stephanopoulos, ABC anchor and Sunday morning host. Mort Zuckerman, owner of the New York Daily News and U.S. News and World Report. Time Warner Inc., owner of CNN parent company Turner Broadcasting. $25,000 to $50,000, AOL, HBO, Viacom. $10,000 to $25,000, Public Radio International, Turner Broadcasting, parent company of CNN, Twitter. $5,000 to $10,000, Comcast, parent company of NBC Universal, NBC, MSNBC. And by the way, Comcast's vice president had a fundraiser for Hillary Clinton last year. That was a Comcast vice president. Comcast owns NBC and MSNBC. Public Broadcasting Service, PBS, Judy Woodruff. Again, $5,000 to $10,000. $1,000 to $5,000, Robert Albatron, owner of Politico. $250 to $1,000, AOL Huffington Post Media Group, as well as Judy Woodruff from PBS. So, here's the deal. Do I think the Clinton Foundation in general has done good work and probably saved lives in Africa? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with saying that. You don't have to hate good deeds done by a foundation. But that is separate from using your perch as a government official, particularly the Secretary of State, to further your potential presidential ambitions, to make your donors happy while you're Secretary of State, so they will be there for you in 3 years when you run for president. That is different than while you're Secretary of State, some of the actions you're taking. Bill Clinton is doing all these speeches around the world making millions. There's no connection between your actions and whose back you're scratching as Secretary of State and your husband going around making speeches for millions of dollars. So at the end of the day, what's troubling is, at the end of the day, you can't expect CNN, MSNBC, they're not nuanced enough. They don't care about real journalism. They are inside the DC bubble, so they're always going to be covering the horse race. But there is a default benefit of the doubt given by certain outlets to Hillary Clinton, and if you see, they have all donated to the Clinton Foundation. Do I think there's marching orders and a meeting saying we love Hillary Clinton and we're not going to go after her on certain things? No. It's kind of like Fox News. It's more of a wink and a nod. When I worked at Fox, I was never told, we are a Republican mouthpiece and we are here to help the Republican Party. It was just known. So when you see CNN, when you see the New York Times, either not even having stories about the Clinton Foundation, or their stories are simply reporting that the Clinton campaign defends themselves and bashes the AP, follow the money. This is what you're seeing. That's why I haven't donated to the Clinton Foundation. I can damn well assure you the Young Turks hasn't. Independent media, whether we wanted to or not, we don't have the money to play those games. So the bottom line is, when you look at these media organizations, it's not just that they have an interest in Hillary Clinton becoming president because she's not going to go after them on taxes or regulations like, say, a Bernie Sanders would. They all have direct connections and financial connections to Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and the Clinton Foundation. And the Observer did this great piece spotlighting that. I also read from a previous Politico piece. So I will keep going after this. I'm not going to do a video every day on it, but I thought it was important to let you know that it's not just that the media, as usual, is not doing its job. There's financial connections here, too. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more at TUIT Politics. Also, like our page on Facebook if you haven't. Also, if you haven't, I have a public page on Facebook trying to build my following there. You could just type in my first name and last name. You'll see my personal page come up and then my public page. I'd love it if you go and like my public page. Thanks, guys.